So you want to start by taking a couple pieces of corn husk and wrapping them around themselves to form a long cylinder. This is what you're going to be using as the arms. So you want it nice and tight. Then you just want to wrap around the center of that with some white thread. You can get a little assistance from a cat if necessary. Hello, Frodo. So once you've got it wrapped, you want to make some bell sleeves because it's a witch, so we want the sleeves to be belled. And so to do that, you just take a piece of corn husk and you lay it so that the sleeves are facing the wrong way, the opposite of the direction you actually want them to be. You put one on the front side and one on the back side. Just kind of wrap them around the corn husk arms. And then you just want to take a piece of white thread and tie those off just below the ends of the two pieces that you put on. Just clip off the excess. And then you just want to unfold those pieces of corn husk. You want to unfold them towards the edge of the arms, or what will be the hand. Just fold them down. That'll kind of, when they fold over themselves, it kind of makes them bell out a little bit, which is what we want for our little corn husk witch. And so then just trim them off. You want to make sure that when you're trimming them, a little bit of the thin piece underneath sticks out, just the same way that a real hand would stick out from belled sleeves. Just like that. So here it is with a sleeve on each hand. And if your corn husks flare out too much, you can also take a hot glue gun and just put a little bit on the very edges and stick them to themselves. And that'll kind of help hold the bell shape too, because then they'll have to hold that form. So there they are. And so then you want to take another, to make the rest of the sleeves, you want to take another piece of corn husk and you want to lay that right over the belled sleeve that you just made, and then take a second one so that you're sandwiching the bell sleeve. Then you want to wrap a piece of thread just below the belled sleeve that you originally made. You want to get it as close to the bottom of that as you possibly can, and then just tie it off with some white thread and cut off the excess, and then unfold those two pieces of corn stalk or corn husk, and then slide it up a little bit if you have to so it's touching the belled sleeve, but then that will be the rest of your sleeve. So she's got little bells at the ends and then kind of renaissance-y puffy sleeves for the rest of it. Then just secure that in the center with some more white thread. And you do the same thing to the other side. So she's got two matching sleeves. So then for the head, you just want to take some corn husks and wad them up into a ball. Doesn't have to be neat at all because you're going to be covering it up anyway. So just wad them up and then take a big piece of husk and lay that around the little corn husk ball that you made. Kind of squish it down underneath to make a neck. And then you'll take another piece of corn husk and you'll lay that one over the head going the opposite direction of the one you just put on. And you do the same thing, just kind of smooth it down and squish it up underneath the ball to make a neck. And then tie it off right under the ball at the neck with some white thread. And cut off the excess thread. And if the sides of the corn husk stick out at all, you can just take a little bit of hot glue and just smush those back against the head to give it more head shape. And so then just separate the little pieces that come down from the head and slip the arms right up underneath there. And then take a piece of white thread and tie those husks off right under the arms, and that'll secure them and hold the arms in place. Keep them nice and sturdy. So then you want to take another husk and lay it diagonally across one of the shoulders down to the waist, and then take a second one and lay it over the other shoulder diagonally across the waist. Give her kind of a dress top. Then just tie that off at the waist. Make sure it's good and tight to hold everything securely. And then just trim off the excess corn husks. So now we've got the top of the little corn husk witch. And so for the skirt, you want to take two large pieces of husk, or more if you need them, and put a few on the front and a few on the back, enough to go around her waist, facing up over her head. Just tie those in place with some white thread. and then just fold them down, and that will be her skirt. So then take a few pieces of corn husk, and you probably have to hot glue a few together like I'm doing here to get a piece big enough, but you want to make basically a nice fairly long rectangle as far as corn husks go, and then trim it into a cape shape so that one end is wider than the other. This is going to be the little witch's cape. And then at the thinner end you want to just cut out a little half circle so that it'll fit around her neck. Then just put a little bit of hot glue on each of the points at the top of the cape and just glue those right onto her shoulders, making sure that it fits around her neck. And if it sticks out at all, if the cape sticks out the back, you can just hot glue that down to her back to keep it flat. So then get some dried corn silk, and you're going to be using this as the hair, so put some hot glue on the top of her head, and then take a good sized batch of the corn silk and just put that on the top of her head, and you'll probably have to put a little bit of hot glue on the back of it, otherwise it'll stick out. So you just want to put a little bit of hot glue on the back and then stick that down to it so that the hair falls normally. Then take another little bit of corn silk and put that on the side, fill in her bald spots, and then take another little grouping of corn silk and glue that one onto the other side so that she's got a nice full head of hair. I kind of like this is green because it's kind of a witchy look. And then because it's corn silk, it's probably a little messy, so you might want to give her a little bit of a haircut to neaten her little hairstyle. So then you want to cut yourself a circle out of a piece of corn husk. You want it to be bigger than her head because this is going to be the brim of her witch's hat. Just a nice little circle. And then you'll cut a triangle with a curved bottom. And you'll just fold it around itself, the curved part on the bottom, just fold it around itself, and that will be the point of her witch's hat. Just put a little bit of hot glue on the edge of that and stick it right onto itself. And again, you might have to glue a couple pieces together to get a piece big enough for this. So then just put a little bit of glue around the bottom of the point you just made and stick that right onto the center of the brim. And so here's her little witch's hat. So then stick a little hot glue on the bottom of that and stick it right on the top of her head. So then I just cut a bunch of thin corn husk pieces, really thin shreds basically, and then I took a long piece and rolled it around itself to use as the broom handle. And so then just take a piece of white thread and lay everything on that. You want the shreds to be up a little bit from the end, and then just tie them in place just like that, and then fold all those little shreds down over themselves so that they're sticking out the bottom of the broom. Just like that. And once you've got them folded down, then you'll just take a piece of white thread and wind it around them a little ways down, and that'll give it that classic witch's broom look. And just trim off any excess. Put a little bit of hot glue on it and stick it right to her hand. And so then there is the Corn Husk Witch. Are you a good witch or a bad witch?